All right. Good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Welcome to another Q Project workshop for Cybersecurity Pocket Edition. And today we're going to be doing a quick workshop about metadata, specifically metadata in photos and images. And so to get started, we're just going to mention what metadata stands for. Metadata is just data that provides data about other data. So in most cases, this isn't something that you see. It's just something that's in the background of a file that gives additional information for, say, sending the file so the computers and devices know what data is being sent or what formats and all that. And so for us, we're going to be looking at metadata inside images and photos. And so this data that can be included in photos or in the background, it's going to be things like lens type, pixels, resolution, the file size and encoding. So it will say whether it's JPEG, PNG, of that sort. It will also include the dates and the times that these photos were taken, as well as the geolocation. And so every time you snap a photo and you have a geolocation on your device, whatever it be, most of this stuff is being saved inside the photo file, but you don't see it. You just see the photo. If you turn geolocation off and location services, you're still going to get your lens types and pixels and resolutions and all that such data, but it won't include any of the location tracking and all that. And this is a great feature. Also, we have to make sure that we protect what data is being sent. But in the case of things like iCloud and Google Photos, these have been a real help. If you notice, whenever you take photos, Google Photos and iCloud and all those, they're able to compile these photos based on where they're at, what times, what days they were taken. And so all this information is helpful for us as a user that just want a better experience. And so metadata is helpful so that all this stuff happens in the background and we can just create albums without really needing to worry about much else. And so how this relates to cybersecurity is that location is always an issue for cybersecurity. As a user, you don't want to be tracked all the time. A lot of people feel like they are being tracked, which sometimes is the case, most of the times is the case. But as the user, it makes our life easier. Like I was mentioning, if you have location services on your photos and stuff, it helps you when you're looking back at memories and all that. You have timestamps and locations of where you took these photos. So it makes life easier. But if it gets in the wrong hands of a malicious user or something, then it can be bad because they have a lot of data that they can try and use to pinpoint where you are or pinpoint personal information about you. And that's what us as the user don't want happening. We don't want personal information being leaked. And so moving on from here, if we look at how metadata in a photo looks, it's usually set up in the form of what's called EXIF, or exchangeable image file format. And you'll see the very beginning of that here. This image is just a terminal command or terminal that I opened. And I did a command to get the EXIF data of an image that I had. And you can see that it includes, like, this is all the metadata included. And there's much more that we'll show you in a second. But you can see that it shows the name of the image file, the format that is a JPEG, there's things like the geometry of it, resolution, print size, and then you get into things like color, and it tells you what the color is, the what on the RGB scale where the red ranges. You can see it goes down to where the green is, and so you get all these ideas about the image. And further down in this EXIF printout, there's things like the type of camera and lens that was used, the operating systems that were used, as well as geolocation, which is what we're going to focus on mainly. There's a few different tools that you can use. A lot of them are terminal ones, but there's also website tools. I'm gonna focus on image magic and photo forensics. This identify command here is using image magic, and on most on most Linux or Unix operating systems, image magic is usually included. If not, it's just a quick terminal download or install. And so I can quickly go to my terminal and clear that out. And so I'm going to show you quickly the full command of what was going on here, but with a different photo. So identify is just the name of the image magic program. And then dash verbose means print out all of the information. And then you choose an image that you want to look at. I chose this image specifically because it had information that wasn't gonna point back to my location specifically. This points back to the University of Merced, so I don't have to worry about that. But we can see that this photo is JPEG. It's got its resolutions and stuff, the coloring of the photo, some of the image statistics, and then some of the things that are useful to look at are the compression would be one. Right now this is saying JPEG, but there's different compressions that can be used. And say you compress it as a zip or something, you could also see that it would be a zip there, or PNG, all those. But properties is a good one to look at. This is where a lot of the information's at. We can see that there's a date create and date modify. These are from today because I had sent myself an email of this information. So it created a new instance of this image. But if we come down to here and we see the original date time and the digitized date time, both of these are from about a year ago, which was when I took the photo. So you can see that even just a photo that's been on this photo was on my phone for a year, and it saves the date it was taken as well as the time it was taken. And it has things like the exposure times, the flash, focal length. Some of the other important information is it tells you what device it was taken on. It says that it was an Apple device. It also says what lens it was, which in this case it was the iPhone 7. It even tells you what camera. It says it was the back camera. So it really has a lot of details about how this image was taken. And I think if we go down more, we can see what software. This tells you what software. In this case, it was iOS 13.2. So there's tons of information included. And this is all included in the photo. And as a normal user, when we take a photo, we don't assume that all of this data right here is in the background of the image you just took. And the data that is really that everyone should be aware of is this GPS data. You can see that the altitude isn't very important, but this is the most important: latitude and longitude. It saves in the metadata the exact location that this photo was taken at. And the reason why this should be important to us is due to iMessage. There is a Forbes cybersecurity analysis a while ago, or he reported on Forbes a news article stating that iMessage was basically the only messaging platform that didn't strip this EXIF data. So EXIF data is the metadata of an image. Whenever you send email and SMS, the EXIF data isn't stripped, but that can be assumed. If you want to send an email, you don't really want any of the data to be removed. And SMS is just a basics, not very secure platform to send text and photos. But as for social media and every other messaging platform, WhatsApp Messenger or Facebook Messenger and all those, or even like Instagram, Twitter, all those, when you upload images, the data, this EXIF data is stripped. So if someone were to go and download it, they don't have this information about you, which is what us as the user want. You don't want someone to go on Facebook and download a photo that you posted for your profile picture and get the location that you took that at. That's pretty dangerous, and most people wouldn't even think twice and be unaware that people have that data. But as for iMessage, there's cases where EXIF data isn't deleted or stripped, and that is when you send photos to someone using your photo app. So if you've taken a photo in the past and you send it over iMessage to a friend, the EXIF data stays included. So all the location, the times, the type of device it was taken on, all that information stays within the photo, which is both good and bad. It's good because when you're sending photos through iMessage, a lot of people like to send it and to include the location so it can be easily added to their albums and stuff and tied into the dates and the times and all that. But it's bad for those users that aren't aware that this is happening. So as a user, if you don't know that EXIF data isn't being stripped, you could be sending photos to someone that you don't fully trust, and they now have access to all that metadata inside of that photo you just sent them. So for iPhones and iMessage, the way around this is you have to take the photo inside the iMessage app, wherever that camera is, and it opens up the camera and you can take a photo and send it. That's the easiest way to not include EXIF data. But that's kind of a nuisance for most people. Most people want to make sure that they can send a photo and not have any repercussions from it. And most of the time you take it in advance to send. And so that's the main reason, or one of the reasons I wanted to cover metadata, was the fact that a lot of people around us, they use iPhones, and mostly nobody really realizes that this GPS location data is included inside photos whenever you're sending it to friends. So if you send it to the wrong person, then they have your location. So you have to be aware of that. And so looking back at, I extracted this from a different photo, but this is the same exact EXIF data that was inside the terminal here. And on this slide, I'm going to show you how you can find the latitude and the longitude from it using math. So we can see that it's split into 3 sections. And this, the way they have it set up, it's like this is the location, and then I believe this is the minute and this is the second. And it's weird that they include the minutes and the seconds, but basically the way you want to set the thing or set up to find the latitude is you take the first one, do nothing to it. Then for the second comma separated value, you divide it by 60. And for the third one, you divide it by 60 times 60. And if you add these 3 values together, you get a number. And you also need to check the reference. So here it says that the latitude reference is south. South would be a negative latitude. So we tack an extra negative onto the latitude. As for the longitude, east is positive because it goes west to east. West is negative. So east stays positive. And I'm not going to plug these ones into Google Maps. What I'm going to do is plug the other values in that I got on the other photo. So if I take these values and I do the math on them, I'm going to open up a calculator. So you would take this data and you would basically just follow the formula that I showed in the slides. And when you do that, you're going to get yourself a longitude, or for this case, it's the latitude. And you see that it comes out to 37.36. And then if we take, if we go ahead and take the longitude now, we can do the same thing. And what we'll find is if we plug this into Google Maps, it's going to be the exact location that I took this photo at about a year ago. So we see this number. Let's open up Google Maps. And then we'll just copy this data over. And whenever you're posting latitudes and longitudes into Google Maps, you just separate it by a comma. And the last thing to do before we click enter is to recheck the reference points. So we can see that for the latitude, it's north, and for the longitude, it's west. So that means the latitude is going to be positive and the longitude has to be negative. So we're going to add an extra negative sign onto there. If I push enter, we can see that it brings us to one of the central points on campus of UC Merced. You can see it's right in the middle, right there, where the marketplace is and all that. And I can verify that's correct by now opening the photo. And if you guys have been to UC Merced, I think you can tell that this is the exact location it was taken at. You can see the crosswalk right there, as well as what should be the soccer field, but it wasn't built in this satellite view. But that's the magic of metadata and EXIF data. So all this is included whenever you take photos. And now what I'm going to do is show you guys how you can do it quickly using the browser. So let me just make sure that, yeah. So if you guys visit this website, I'll put it in the chat, but it should be easy enough to just type in. This website does exactly what I just did in the terminal, but it does it all for you, and it even converts the latitude and longitude and shows you the location as well. So this is a pretty cool one to use just if you want to do something super quick and see all the data included in your photo. So if I do the same thing and I grab this photo that I took, plug it in here and upload it, then it also has a bunch of other analysis stuff. I won't get into most of this, but we'll focus on the metadata section. And you can see that it includes a lot of the information we were already talking about. It says it's JPEG, shows the image width and height and all that, the phone, the camera model, the software used, all that. But if we come down to the composite location and the GPS location, we can see that it shows us the latitude and the longitude, and it also even gives you the position in a nice to read format and the coordinates in a nice to read format. And you can see that it pinpointed the same spot that I did manually. And so this will be cool if you guys want to test out. If you guys have any images on your computer or your phone that you've taken and you know that you've taken it on a device that has location services, you can plug it in here and you can see all the metadata and EXIF data that that photo has that's been stored. And so other than that, we'll end it there. So you guys can feel free to look at metadata of your own photos. It's pretty simple task to do. And so thank you for showing up. If you want to stay up to date with the Q project, we have our Cat Life link here and our YouTube page here. Our YouTube page is going to be uploaded soon enough with more of our workshops from the past. So you'll be able to stay up to date and see all the workshops we've been doing throughout the weeks. And here are all the sources I used for those that want to check them out. And with that, thank you for showing up. And that's the end of today's workshop.